Drive safely. Recording started.
Can you manage, Anne?
How much it is, Mom? Yeah, I'm fine, Mom. I'm fine, thank you. Whoa, that's... Ooh, it's
You
amazing.
don't need to stop for lunch or anything.
Will start now.
No, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be there at
This
2
is her
o'clock.
prescription, Ronnie. This...
Yeah,
Did you have to pay for it, hon?
$10.
Oh, that's good. You got insurance then.
Well,
10
it was.
milliliters. That's a lot, Rod. Holy shit, but... Rod, hey? 10 milliliters, but...
Yeah.
We're going to have an excellent day
can
of touring. If at any stage...
You going to Maple Ridge now, hon?
Yeah. She's good now, right? And now I'm actually gonna go on the road.
You give her the antibiotics and she's had her medicine, the Tylenol. Oh, somebody whacked that.
I'm gonna leave the Advils. I'm gonna give that one. She's going to bed.
The hell is she
Had her
wearing?
antibiotics, so?
I'm doing it right now, Mom. Don't
Oh,
worry.
okay.
She's not wanting to take it right now. Yeah, she's not. You can have it. Interesting flavor, eh?
What's it
To
taste
go
like?
back to the highway, turn
Wild
left
berry.
at the intersection. If we want to park and walk around the village, go straight through and we'll enter on the right.
I didn't expect you would spit it all out completely. Oh, Abby. Munchkin. Really? I put it in her mouth, right? And I thought she was drinking it, and then raw it all out. Well, now you're all sticky. Munchkin, you got antibiotics everywhere now, Abby. My gosh, she did not even take anything, Mom. She spat it all out.
We'll soon be back on Highway 99. We'll turn left at the lights at the highway to start making our way back towards Vancouver.
What would you like me to do?
No, that's not. You just didn't say anything. So
Okay, well, I don't understand if you're giving me question, direction, generalized statements.
Well, it's been all getting technicalities. Have it. Play with it. Yep. There's nothing in there. It's not gonna have your antibiotics right now. I'll do half this time. I have no idea how much you did. It's actually really good. I wouldn't mind having that. That's it. A little bit by bit. Just drink it bit by bit.
So now let's start making our way back to Vancouver. I'll have different stories for our drive back, but I will point out some of the major things along the way again, just in case we didn't stop and we might like to now. I'm going to have more Olympic stories on this way. In just a few minutes, we'll pass by Creekside, which served as the finishing line for the alpine skiing events. Once we passed Creekside, we'll soon be leaving the Whistler municipality.
Should be okay. Once the medicine, take the medicine.
She barely took
She hasn't taken any.
Why not?
Spat it back out.
Why not? What's the question is that why not? Because she spat it out. She's not taking it.
Just give us some more.
She got her Advils, so that's. I mean, her Tylenol. She had that. So. Yeah, give me something to eat. I don't know where my lid went. Yeah,
Did she get any of the antibiotics?
No. No.
Don't worry about it, Mom, okay? She might have had 1 milliliter, not even. Yeah, I'll get you something. I'll get you something to eat. You got some Tylenol in you. You like that one? Yeah. That's okay. Oh. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that 2 packs, Ron? That's it? Yeah.
Yeah, just the 2. They didn't have a 5-pack there.
Oh, yeah. What are we gonna have? Are we gonna have some Cheers and bananas? We're gonna go num-nums? Yeah? Okay. You
Thanks,
have your
Rich.
black
Right,
plate
yeah.
here. And you want this one? We'll give you this one here. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I'm such a cutie. Alright. Which puppy? The Cheerios. Yeah, what the Cheerios? Cheerios. Uh-oh.
I was chatting with Heather and she said she's going to see what the Mazda people will say.
Depending on the time of year, we might have either seen skiers or bikers on the ski hill. In summer, the ski runs are converted into 200 kilometers of lift-serviced, gravity-fed, adrenaline-fueled descending trails. The park is designed for beginners, intermediate, and expert riders, and there's a non-stop calendar of races and events happening over the summer. Sometimes it's completely mind-blowing to see the skill and bravery of some of the riders. Body armor does give you a little extra confidence to go for it, but you still have to have the skill and overcome your body's desire not to injure itself to ride to a level that a lot of the talent in this town do.
It's quite a busy community they're doing lots, eh?
Yeah.
It's clean, they keep it very clean and well manicured.
We came at about the best time, apparently, though.
Yeah, it gets busier. Like, what do they do in the summer here? Just
Mountain
walk?
bikes.
Oh yeah, walking.
That's what he just said. Hiking, mountain biking, yeah.
What's that? Please help me. I know it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
It's a rich place, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got herself. Where is that one? I swear I saw that bag full of snacks here when she came. Where did it go? Where did it go? Is that what that is? Whoa. I think it's in your diaper bag.
In a minute or two, on our left, we'll pass by the turnoff for what was the Whistler Athletes Village during the games. Organizers needed to provide housing for 3,000 athletes and officials during the games. Now, Whistler has always struggled dealing with the issue of affordable housing to encourage people to stay in the community. We've seen many luxurious and multi-million-dollar homes on our drive today. Many of those homes are recreational properties that belong to folks who are not permanent residents of Whistler. And they really don't need to rent out their places to local residents. But these homes drive prices way up and make it difficult for Whistler workers who want to gain entry into the real estate market and eventually own their own homes. So, in their planning, officials created an athletes' village that after the games would be sold off as affordable housing to qualifying Whistler residents. And so we had the creation of the new community of Cheakamus Crossing. The homes and neighborhood are also built with materials and standards, making it one of the most sustainable planned communities ever in Canada. The community also includes a new 180-bed hostel. The annual migrant population of working holiday youth from Australia and New Zealand will be pleased to have these available while they search for a place to rent for the season. No doubt if you stopped in the village, you would have heard at least one or two Aussie or Kiwi accents.
There we go.
That is true. There was a lot of Aussies and Kiwis there. Mountains, eh?
Is she eating now?
Yeah, she's eating.
What's good she's eating? Probably feeling a bit better then. How long was the drive for?
It says about 2 hours, but we'll see if there's anywhere we want to stop or anything like that.
We're now leaving the resort municipality of Whistler and making our way back towards Squamish and then on to Vancouver. As you'll remember, we should reach Squamish in about 45 minutes or less, and that is about the halfway point on this drive. I hope you had a great time in Whistler.
Oh, yeah.
I like to describe Whistler as a place that's
I'm fine.
Christmas every day and New Year's every night. Though I'm starting to feel like I might be getting a little too old to keep up with that pace.
Yeah, there's people all over the world. I was talking to a couple in the elevator ride. They were from Finland.
Oh, cool.
What was that, Jay?
Oh, I said I was talking to a couple in the elevator. They were from Finland. Hey.
The natural geography of the mountains and valleys in this region was shaped by the effects of glacier movement and erosion. During the last ice age, the ice in this valley may have been as deep as 1 kilometer. Glaciers are slow-moving behemoths that are incredibly heavy. Their downhill journey over millions of years rubs, snaps, and grinds the surrounding landscape. If you look up or down this valley from a little higher up, it's possible to see features that were under the glacier tend to be rounder and smoother from this action. Today, you can see some glaciers that still exist in the mountains as we drive through the next 30 kilometers.
Merci. That was good. Get those boogies out. Get that nasty booger out. I meant that for your banana mess, buddy. I guess I really have to. I'll get it. Don't you worry. I won't get it. Oh. Yeah, I changed her diaper to her. I was like,
Yeah.
it's like
Nice.
sitting in the back right now.
Vancouver to Whistler with me, we shared some stories about some of the more memorable events from the Olympics that occurred in Whistler. Since we're driving towards Vancouver, this time I'll tell you stories of things that occurred in Vancouver during the Games. But first, one last quick story from Whistler. Ski jumping is not a closely followed sport in North America. It's much bigger in Europe. A Swiss jumper named Simon Amann produced a dominating performance in Whistler, winning both the normal hill and the large hill events. That is everything you can win as an individual at the Olympics. Back in 2002 in Salt Lake City, he did the same thing, winning both events. Simon Amann is truly one of the most dominating athletes in an Olympic sport. You'll see the turn to the Whistler Olympic Park coming up. I suggest that we just stay on the highway, as nothing for visitors has been created yet.
C'est bon la banane. Yummy banana. Yummy. Oh, sticky everywhere. Yeah. Really need to clean your clothes because your towels, blankets, and stuff once we get much. She's dependent on bringing certain things. She's like, I want to drink my own water. Let me do it myself.
Yeah.
Don't give it to me. She'll push it away.
That's good.
She likes to be independent. I mean, she will make a mess. She'll spills off of it, but that's fine.
We're back to the entrance to the Brandywine Falls car park. If we did not stop here on our way up to Whistler, then it might be nice to do it now. It really doesn't take long to stop for a quick look and take a photo. The naming of the falls remains a bit of a mystery, though one explanation is that it was named following a wager between two surveyors. The surveyors bet a bottle of brandy on the height of the falls, and the one who most accurately guessed the height would collect the bottle. Following the wager, the loser apparently named the falls Brandywine. Turn in to see these very attractive falls.
Should we go to the waterfall?
Sure. It's raining right now.
Be nice, I bet. I think there might be 2 places that they recommend to stop here, maybe 3.
So much can. She'll be sleeping anytime soon now because she's kind of drifting off here now, but
Yeah.
wow. Excuse me. I'll be careful. That's oh, she's like, her eyes are like rolling. Wow, that guy was pretty tattooed up. Oh, he just stuck that on his wheels. That's not cool. Really cool. He put like. So Munch is coming with us, obviously, right?
You got your runner's rod.
No, I don't. Is she almost asleep?
No, she's
No,
like
okay.
not in
Then
here.
yeah, we'll all go.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't look like it's stroller worthy though.
Yeah.
Okay, so your she was back on Munchkin. Okay. Oh, it's so hard when I know, Munchkin. It's so hard when I'm trying to strap her in. It's like trying to shove the blanket right there, Rod. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's like her block.
Yeah.
If I get this blanket in.
Now I just want to make sure it's in. She's not twisted in there. Good. Okay, Munchkin. Now I'm gonna take
I'm leaving these runners on now. My feet are cold. I'll take them off.
A little bit of leeway.
I found socks in my bag. I knew I had socks somewhere.
After all that,
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. We are strapped.
so this is open just for a little bit of venting, and if it becomes too cold
Or rainy.
or rainy or whatever, yeah. You're okay.
Need to buckle up. There we go. Focus to it. Tu as autre chose de l'eau? On va mettre de l'eau ici. Ok. Tu as de la banane? Here? No? I'll give you something.
This is a good idea.
Well,
Look at this.
little stopovers like you can
You feed into
feed
the
in.
traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, at first I was like, what are you doing? You're right in traffic. No?
That's kind of annoying. I'm gonna close it. Just have to put this on, I guess.
Oh, that's the first time we see a Miller truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we go to Seattle, they've still got the reservation though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what Ronnie said? We should take a big dump on the carpet before we leave.
Yeah. Rub it in. Yeah. Get a $200 job cleaner.
Oh, sorry, it's Munchkin. You're just having her
But is that Expedia or the hotel though?
her
At
butt
the hotel.
butt breathing, and she just pooped.
Yeah,
She kind of stepped in it.
I told them there was a family medical.
One of the most notable and celebrated mountains in the area is known as Black Tusk. If the clouds are high or if the sky is clear, we can see it to our left, though this is not the most famous viewing angle. It's easily identified by its pinnacle of rock that rises straight up out of the summit like a horn almost. In Whistler, you may have seen it if you took a scenic gondola ride or even hiked on the mountains. Black Tusk was believed to have first formed over 1 million years ago due to volcanic activity in this area. Glaciers wore away at the mountain, but around 170,000 years ago, new volcanic activity took place, forcing lava up and out of the top of the mountain. What happens is the relatively brittle and weak cinder rock on the outside is worn away by ice, rain, and wind. The core cooled much more slowly, leaving much harder rock. So erosion wears away the outside, just leaving the distinctive core shape. And in this case, its mineral content makes it a very dark black color. The indigenous First Nations people of the area thought it was a spiritually significant place, and its name translates to the landing place of the Thunderbird. Its shape and black color was believed to have come from the Thunderbird's lightning. White people and Europeans have paid homage to the mountain by naming many businesses after it, such as a crane operator and an art gallery. But best of all, the mountain has a beer dedicated to it. Black Tusk Ale by the Whistler Brewing Company.
Oh, you were still there?
Yeah.
was changing it when
No, that was a difference.
Oh, that's a different one. That's okay. You can have it. Ow. 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 Oh, there we go. Got that big. Oh, that was a big one. That was a big one too. Good job, Munchkin. Yeah. Ooh, those are really nasty. Crusty. You're like a snake. You're shedding. You're shedding boogers. Also, I really like these two. I can understand why you really like them.
These train tracks beside the road here, and that we'll cross a little ahead, are today used by a sightseeing service called the Whistler Sea to Sky Climb. It's operated by the same company that provides the world-class and world-famous Rocky Mountaineer train trip between Vancouver and the Canadian Rockies. The trip to Whistler is a much shorter half-day trip, but offers this wonderful sightseeing we've seen today, along with that extra romance of train travel. As soon as this new route was offered, it became an instant hit with travelers. Every time an Olympic Games rolls around, it seems like each host city finds a way to outdo previous hosts, or to put a unique twist on something that it's taken for granted. Often, it's how the Olympic flame is lit. It's hard to forget Barcelona, where an archer shot a flaming arrow into the cauldron to light it. The first big twist in medal design came in Turin, when medals were designed as discs or donuts with a hole in the middle. Pretty cool idea when we first saw them. Well, Vancouver's Games took the innovation to a whole new level. Industrial designers collaborated with Aboriginal artists and the Canadian Mint to come up with a truly unique and thoughtful design. Firstly, the medals were not flat, but wavy. This was representative of the area's connection with both mountains and the ocean. But perhaps even more intriguing was the design on the medals. If you've ever seen any Haida or West Coast Aboriginal art, and I'm sure you have, you'll know that the First Nations people represents animals as spirits, like screen prints or what's called serigraphs. For the medals for the Olympics, a very large design made up of 4 motifs of the orca whale were designed. They used ravens for the Paralympics. The design was laser etched and stamped into the large sheet. Then each medal was cut from the large design by hand. That means that each medal picks up a different portion of the larger design, and therefore each medal is completely unique, different from any other medal. The whole process took 30 steps and created a true piece of art.
Look at that river, right?
Yeah, she's smokes. She really has to have an appetite too, right?
rubbish bins. Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, a rubbish bin is a rubbish bin, but you know, even the ones that you just have to lift the lid up, somehow they figured that in some places.
Along this next stretch of road, there are a number of viewpoints that we can pull into on our right. Each pullout provides us with a great view on a nice clear day. The best of the viewpoints has a sign to encourage you to turn in. Feel free to stop at any of them for a nice photo, or keep driving and we'll see the one with the sign. The river that we're tracking alongside is the Chicamas. It begins at Chicamas Lake inside Garibaldi Provincial Park. From there, it flows south, past us here into the Paradise Valley, just west of Brome Lake. The clear emerald waters of the Chicamas are popular with kayakers who paddle the river's 12-kilometer or 7-mile run from the north end of Paradise Valley Road to the exit near Squamish. Freshwater fishing for coho salmon and dolly varden are also popular on the Chicamas almost all year round. Though you're not allowed to keep the fish that you catch, you must release them.
Can you
No,
plug?
just pass me the wire.
What you want, Anne?
Just pass me the wire. Oh, I got it.
Oh, there you go. We just plugged in, Anne. You got it?
Yep, I got it. Oh, I don't want this. Thank you.
Get my attention. Just say Julie, and then
I did say Rodney.
I know.
Yeah, I will.
But that's usually the way you'll get my attention.
Can you open my glasses for me?
When you get by this bend, huh?
Thank you.
We're going to cross a bridge up ahead, and one side, the bridge of the highway there, is a steel bridge that's orange. I've never been able to work out why local people call the bridge Bob. I don't know why. It's just Bob the Bridge. Maybe it's a good marker when you're driving towards Whistler that you don't have much further to go. But I bet now that I've told you that, if you ever drive this highway again, when you see the bridge, you'll say, "Hey, that's Bob."
Probably one of the fellas that built it.
Maybe Bob had red hair.
Maybe.
Or the fella that built it.
Bob the Builder, Bob the Bridge.
sign up ahead lets us know that we're not too far away from Squamish, which is about a halfway point from Vancouver to Whistler. We're beginning to climb up above the Cheakamus River again. Another great viewpoint is coming up on our right. Pull in for a spectacular view and a great photo opportunity. You can see Mount Tantalus and the Tantalus Range from the viewpoint. The southern end of the Tantalus Range comes close to Squamish, and it runs about 35 kilometers northwest along the Squamish River. The range is just 16 kilometers wide at its widest. The highest peak in the range is Mount Tantalus at 2,603 meters, or 8,540 feet. The name Tantalus, as well as many of the peaks in the range, come from Greek mythology. The names of Tantalus's wife, daughter, and son, as well as her grandson, are found on some of the range's smaller peaks. The story of Tantalus is that he was trapped in cold water with fruit dangling close, but not close enough to eat, which is where the word tantalize comes from. Rumor has it that the range was called Tantalus by a local climber who was tantalized by the sight of the range's impressive spires and ice falls from across the turbulent waters of the Squamish River. The Tantalus Range is a favorite with climbers, and also with photographers and filmmakers.
The route guidance will start now.
The viewpoint is coming up.
Continue on current road for more than 50 kilometers.
Opportunity.
Don't even need to think about it, and it just records everything.
Takes good pictures too.
The open slopes you see periodically from this highway give you an idea of how much logging activity there still is in the area. In an effort to soften the appearance of ugly logging scars left on the landscape, British Columbia is changing its practices. Past thinking was that we could replant large areas that had been clear-cut, but experts discovered that large-scale disturbances cause erosion problems and make it difficult to regenerate a new forest. Therefore, smaller cuts are being made. If you're interested in the history of logging in this area, the Brome Lake Interpretive Forest coming up on the right may help answer some of your questions. This area was first logged around 1915, and afterwards became home to several logging companies. Today, the Brome Lake Interpretive Forest is there for use and enjoyment, as well as teaching about how forests are managed. If we have a lot of time and we think forest management is an interesting subject for us, then we can turn into the parking lot area ahead and walk the trail and read the signs. If not, then just keep going. I don't mind.
Thank you.
Thanks, I'm glad we have your permission. I'm glad we have your permission.
It would be kind of startling if you said, "Oh, you're welcome." Virtual guy.
It is handy though, eh?
Hey?
It is neat, it is handy.
Yeah, how did you get it?
It's just an app you download.
Okay, it's handy. Should tell people that. Tell Heather and David that. They can get theirs. I hope she gets that car sorted. It's been nothing but bloody problems, that Mazda. Cancel, but it's paid off now anyway. It's paid off.
Though the relationship is not perfect, and many problems and issues still exist, Canada can be considered as fairly advanced in its recognition of Aboriginal rights and responsibilities. When the Olympics were staged, it was a key element that it was recognized that the Games would take place on what was traditionally First Nations lands, and that permission and inclusion of the bands in the process and ceremonies was a vital element. The 4 host First Nations were the Squamish, Musqueam, Lil'wat, and Tsleil-Waututh. And if you watch the opening ceremonies, you may remember the ceremony did not begin until the 4 chiefs of the nations were recognized and first gave their welcome. The opening ceremony featured dancing and costume from First Nations from all across Canada.
Regalia. It's not costume.
I know. They don't know, huh?
Oh. Costume is what fucking Spider-Man wears.
That's for concerts. Regalia is something they put their energy into for years. I understand that.
I wasn't directing it at you.
I know, hon, but I knew for a long time that it was regalia. That's why when somebody gives you something that like that, it's an honor. I know if you get a blanket, that's an honor too. One of my friends got a blanket, and I thought, I got it once too. You know, and she just got it for nothing.
No, it wasn't for nothing. I'm sure it was gifted to her for something.
Yeah, spiritual thing.
It's just frustrating. It thinks that's all you have to do.
If we drove to Whistler together, you may remember me mentioning Brackendale as a great place to see bald eagles during the winter months. In the 1890s, this rural residential community was the only civilization here, and the town of Squamish was not established until further into the future. Brackendale's second school was built in 1905. You can still see the large beechnut tree that was planted by one of the pupils. Around the same time, the Thorne family settled here and established a hops farm. A row of hardwood trees can still be seen from the highway where they once marked the farm's property line. Around that time, the Upper Squamish Valley also began to open up, and it was a hard way of life for the settlers that came to the area. Today, Brackendale boasts the largest gathering of bald eagles in North America. The eagles began to hit town in mid-November and stay until mid-February. They come to fatten themselves on the spawned-out salmon.
Freedom Town. Huh? It is the largest gathering of bald eagles on the planet, so, I mean, what else would you call it? Freedomville? Yeah.
Well, no, they find all they need here. Feel safe, and they find
Of course,
the food.
look at all the freedom.
Yeah. Squamish, what does that mean, huh?
Squamish is the name of one of the First Nations indigenous tribes that lived here.
Tribe.
Nations.
Nations.
Yeah. First indigenous nations. I like how there's two different signs, 5.8 and 5.81. You can just, if you need that extra little bit, you can squeak through on that side.
On that one you can.
Yeah.
Not in this one. That happens a lot in the UK, huh? Trucks
People
don't
that
read
smash into the bridge.
Yeah, they don't even, I mean, there's bridges everywhere. They don't even read the signs, and I mean, you should know the size of your own vehicle.
Pardon me.
Right now, the town of Squamish surrounds us. If you visited here 20 years ago, you'll be absolutely shocked at how far the community and building has spread along the highway. This area has a rich history predating the arrival of Europeans. It used to be the hunting, fishing, and travel grounds of the Squamish First Nations people. They hunted and gathered as part of their nomadic lifestyle for many thousands of years before European settlers arrived. Natives of the northwest coast formed quite advanced societies compared to other indigenous cultures around the world. Temperate climate and an abundance of food easily caught from the nearby ocean meant they enjoyed spare time and could dedicate considerable energy to arts, music, and trading, whereas other cultures had to devote most of their time to searching for food to stay alive. The Squamish Nation lived in an area stretching from present-day North Vancouver to the Squamish River watershed and the northern area of Howe Sound. Whistler was on the way for First Nation trading routes between Squamish and other nations to the north. The area was rich with wildlife and resources, and at one time tens of thousands of Coast Salish First Nations people lived, traded, and thrived in the areas between Vancouver, Howe Sound, and Lillooet.
Mamquam. Porsche Club.
How do you feel the car travels then?
This travels great, yeah.
It's good.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. That mountain, eh? You see that, Jay?
It's interesting.
EV charging station, Toot Long.
Could be anywhere in the world. I forget I'm in Canada.
No, wait. Canada's a big place, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, cruise
Dad
control
would not
didn't
put a
kick
rack
off.
on our car. Dad would not put a bike rack on our car.
Why not?
I said, well, what about a roof rack? Slows the vehicle down.
You'll remember from our drive up, Squamish promotes itself as the outdoor adventure capital of the world. I also briefly mentioned the Outdoor Adventure Center, which is coming up just ahead on our left. If you'd like to stay and explore Squamish a little further, then I highly recommend visiting the Adventure Center. They also regularly play inspiring videos of some of the activities and adventure pursuits in the mountains and trails around here. And it's free. If we want to make good time to get back to Vancouver, just keep following straight ahead along the highway.
The route guidance will start now.
An hour and a half.
Continue on current road for more than 50 kilometers.
Kidding.
30. Jen said you're like a bunch of American touring Europe in 10 days. Holy mother of...
Here again is that huge granite rock face up ahead that's called the Stiwamus Chief. This wall is famous amongst the rock climbing community. The Chief is the remains of a magma chamber of a volcano that was active long ago. When ice receded from the last ice age 10,000 years ago, weaker rock was eroded to expose the magma chamber. If you get close to the Chief's wall, you can see long scratches and scours from where the ice moved along its face. If you were to climb the face or take the grueling steep hike alongside, you'd be rewarded at the summit with incredible views of the surrounding area. Perhaps another day.
I don't know. The sun was blowing in before. I don't know. I should have opened it for you. I'm sorry.
You climb that?
That's the challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
If we did not already visit Shannon Falls on our way to Whistler, then coming up we have our second chance to make that stop. Sometimes it's disappointing to get caught in Vancouver's constant wet weather. Well, here is one place where wet weather makes the experience even more impressive. But rain or shine, I encourage you to turn left just ahead for a short visit to the falls and feel the mist on your skin.
What do we think? Alright. Do you want to go to the waterfall or no? Okay.
London fare is $6.77.
I'm not sure what it's called.
This very peaceful-looking waterway on our right is called Howe Sound, and it will be our companion until we turn the corner for Vancouver. The Sound is shaped like a big but fairly skinny bay. Behind us, Squamish sits at its furthermost point. The Sound has some attractive islands that look like idyllic places to get away from it all. Some are inhabited, some are not. Those with permanent residence have connection service to the mainland provided by BC ferries. The Howe Sound opens up the Georgia Strait, which is the waterway between Vancouver Island and the mainland. Once you pass around Vancouver Island, you're in the Pacific Ocean. The Howe Sound historically has been Squamish First Nation territory, although the waters and the shores of its southeastern end, now called the Sunshine Coast, are part of the Sechelt Tribes territory. Both the Squamish and Sechelt tribes are part of the Coast Salish Nation. Captain George Vancouver was the first European to sail into these waters, and he named Howe Sound after British Naval Admiral Lord Earl Howe. Another aspect of the Winter Olympics where Vancouver and Whistler organizers took it to a new level was the torch relay. Never has there been such an extensive rally, covering more miles and passing through more hands than ever before. After arriving from Greece, the Olympic flame traveled 45,000 kilometers, all within Canada, over 106 days and through 1,020 communities. 12,000 people got to carry the torch, supported by an estimated 200,000 volunteers. It's said that the flame traveled by 100 different modes of transportation, including dog sled, snowmobile, and even was carried while riding a wave on a surfboard. The torch itself had a unique design, and it seemed like the whole top 1/3 of the torch was on fire. It was created by a team of designers from one of Canada's best-known companies who normally builds trains and airplanes, Bombardier. Their brief was to make a torch that could be handled by any age. It must be able to burn for at least 12 minutes. The flame must be easily transferred. And then the tough one, the flame must be visible in any Canadian weather conditions. The final design was a thin white construction with a slight wave. I must admit, I was a little nervous that the flame would go out as Wayne Gretzky was driven on the back of a truck to the location where the second outdoor Olympic cauldron was lit by the waterfront. But it didn't.
I'll put my glasses away for me, please, Mom. Thank you.
Do you want to put away now?
Yeah. Gotta be in there, yeah.
We're just about to reach the small community of Britannia Beach. The giant dump truck parked on the side of the highway is the first clue that this was a former mining town. This area was dominated by copper mining right up until the 1970s when the mine finally closed. Copper was first discovered on Britannia Mountain in 1888, and construction of the Britannia mine soon followed, and was once the largest copper mine in the British Commonwealth. Eventually, low prices and high costs forced the mining operation to cease. Perhaps that was a good thing, as the byproduct of the mine was unacceptable levels of contamination of the waterways around the mine.
Oh, sweet.
Today, the facility has been converted to the BC Museum of Mining. As well as exhibits, visitors can visit actual mine shafts, pan for gold, and sometimes attend concerts in chambers. If you're interested, feel free to turn in. You'll notice the many windows on the building. There are 18,792 of them in total, and they were all replaced as part of its restoration.
That's a lot of windows.
wilderness around us is where some predatory animals live. At times, residents in these coastal and other interior British Columbia towns have had close encounters with cougars.
Ooh.
Just behind us in Squamish, one brave mother fought off a cougar. She and her 3-year-old daughter were out walking their dog and picking berries. The cougar approached, but the mother only saw it in the corner of her eye and thought it was just another dog walking towards them. All of a sudden, the cougar pounced on the 3-year-old, who later said she didn't know why the big kitty did not play nice. The mother instinctively threw herself on the cougar. Eventually, getting between her daughter and the cat, she was able to force it off. In another attack about 200 kilometers from here, a family's golden retriever went to the defense of a small boy who was playing in the backyard and also fought off a cougar. It was believed the dog had been killed by the cougar, but it quite miraculously survived. In both cases, the cougars were tracked and destroyed by conservation officers. I don't mean to alarm you. Cougar attacks on humans are extremely rare. Usually the animal is sick or starving, but it's always worthwhile being vigilant. Just up ahead is the community of Furry Creek. This exclusive community's main claim to fame is the Furry Creek Golf Course. The course was designed by Robert Muir Graves and is perched on a mountainside. The signature 14th hole, set on a rock peninsula jutting into Howe Sound, is visible from the highway on our right. And one more golf thing. Happy Gilmore would make any golfer's top 3 list of best golf movies. It contained the famous punch-up fight scene between Bob Barker from The Price is Right and Adam Sandler, and it was filmed, you guessed it, right here at Furry Creek.
No way. Very interesting. Where is it? Did you see it?
Yeah, they passed it.
Oh, really? Wasn't as good as the other two, of course.
This is alright. The route of everything.
Or I guess the other 3, no, other 2. So we didn't have breakfast at one hotel, that's right.
It was out of a lot of stuff.
She was overworked. There was only one girl by herself.
But his toaster didn't work. 2 of them didn't work. The toaster said it ran out of milk.
Milk
and they
was
ran out
gone,
of juice.
orange juice was
Porto
gone.
Cove Provincial Park, which is just up ahead on the right, features waterfront campsites with a view over Howe Sound to the mountains beyond.
Yeah.
Since this is the only provincial campground on the Sound, campsites are in constant demand, and it's pretty hard to find a space on summer weekends. Believe it or not, but Porto Cove is also a popular scuba diving spot. In recent years, 4 ships were sunk here to create an artificial reef which scuba divers love to explore. Concrete pipes, chains of tires, and steel girder beams have also been dropped to make the reef more interesting. The waters are especially clear in winter and full of interesting marine life that live in the wrecks. Some of the more unusual marine life includes octopus, grunt sculpins, which is a colorful ray-finned fish, and several species of crabs. I put a picture of the grunt sculpin on my screen. Diving in such cold water requires special equipment to protect the diver from becoming hypothermic very quickly. It's not the type of hobby that many people are interested in taking up.
Do a lot of scuba diving in the Atlantic.
Yeah. That's the ocean, bud.
No, that's a lake.
That's a sea. No, that's a sea.
Is it? Coming in.
What did they say? Hope Sound it's called?
Oh. So it's saltwater lakes.
I think so.
Yeah.
No, it's not a lake. It's a sound.
Oh,
It's connected to the ocean.
yeah.
As far as I could tell.
House sound, yeah.
Interesting.
This is a few miles to before we can actually
See the Pacific Ocean?
well, first we'll be staring right at the island, Vancouver Island. Right.
On some of the corners along here, we get to see some of the massive supporting walls that engineers had to build here to sit the extra lanes of highway on. There's only so far you can blast into a steep mountainside, and sometimes you just have to build up from below. You get the idea that I'm being very impressed by how much better the highway is compared to how it used to be?
It's a big car looking, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This is a spinny road. Huh?
I mentioned back closer to Whistler that the Whistler Sea to Sky Climb now operates a half-day scenic rail trip in this line, but others will remember this line for the Royal Hudson Steam Train, pulled by locomotive number 2860. This locomotive powered passenger services for many, many years until being retired in 1959. After sitting idle for over a decade, the locomotive was purchased by the BC government and leased to BC Rail. For 25 years, the Royal Hudson Steam Train operated as a tourist train until 1999, when it suffered major boiler problems and was just too expensive to repair. After a quarter of a century, it no longer carried tourists on this scenic journey. Efforts have been made to repair the locomotive again, financed by government and private money. Since many parts are no longer able to be sourced, many had to be fabricated from scratch. The Royal Hudson has managed to be steamed up again and made her way a short distance down the track in Squamish in recent years. But unfortunately, plans are not set to restart the passenger train, though many are hoping it will one day whistle again. This is one of my favorite parts of driving the Sea to Sky Highway. I enjoy our proximity to the water and knowing that giant mountains tower above us to the left. The next community we'll pass by is Lions Bay, though we'll barely see anything of its affluent enclave. Let me tell you the story of what for many Canadians was the biggest moment of the Winter Olympics. Of course, I'm talking about ice hockey, which comes close to being a religion in Canada. There were very high expectations of the Canadian men's team, though competition is very even at the top level, thanks to so many foreign players now playing in the NHL or National Hockey League. Before I go any further telling you about the men's competition, I want to acknowledge the Canadian women's team, who won gold for the 3rd Olympics in a row. What an awesome team. Okay, back to the men. Canada did not start the competition well. They did have an easy 8-0 victory over Norway in their opening game, but Norway is not considered a strong hockey nation. Switzerland was the next opponent. Again, not a powerhouse team, and Canada was expected to win easily. They did win, but it took a shootout to separate the teams after scores were tied at the end of regulation. A small scare that should wake the Canadians up, right? Well, the next group match was against the USA, one of the favorites. Well, the Canadians were beaten 5-3 and did not look good for a medal team. At the end of group play, Canada was ranked 6th for the finals. Yes, 6th. A national tragedy could unfold. Because of their low ranking, after the group stage, Canada had to play an extra knockout game to qualify for the quarterfinals. With each game, they seemed to improve, looking more like a team than disorganized talented individuals. First, they beat Germany, then Russia, and finally the surprising Slovakians in the semifinal. It was the gold medal game against the USA, who had beaten them in the group play. In Canada, you could walk down the main street of any town and not see a single person. The game was tight. Canada led 2-0 in the second period, but the Americans clawed a goal back to go into the final period at 2-1. The third period was close, but the Canadians hung on to their 1-goal lead until with just 25 seconds left in the game, the USA scored while their own net was empty for the extra attacker. The deflated Canadians would have to lift themselves for the sudden death overtime. I won't go on too much more, but all you have to know is that the poster boy for Canadian hockey, Sidney Crosby, took a pass from Jerome McGinley and squeezed the puck between the goalie and the post to score the gold medal winning goal. Canada won on home ice, one of the greatest moments in Canada's hockey history. I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, it was Sid the Kid scored 2, yeah.
It's good.
The route guidance will start now. Continue on current road for more than 50 kilometers.
car is really quiet too because it's an electric.
Oh, okay. Did you switch it to electric? Does it do it itself?
Does it itself.
Why?
Save gas when I can. It's
From
constantly.
here, we can see Horseshoe Bay up ahead on a peninsula attached to the
Corvette's
mainland.
coming through.
This is where the ferries dock. If you look to your right, odds are good that you'll see a BC ferry on its way to or from one of the islands. Ferries leave from Horseshoe Bay and service some of the islands in Howe Sound, the Sunshine Coast, and, of course, Vancouver Island. You'll notice that many of the homes along this highway are big and beautiful. As we get closer, look west across Horseshoe Bay. There are some houses that are the definition of luxury. Several Hollywood movie stars own homes here, and it's no wonder why. The Strait of Georgia and its spectacular sunsets are spread out on their doorstep. Vancouver and Whistler are nearby, and yet this neighborhood is removed from the traffic and irritations of urban living. If you're interested in how the other half live, feel free to drive around this neighborhood.
Yes, you see the ferry over there?
I was looking for it.
I saw one.
I can remember driving places with Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing this, you know. And then you see this and then it kind of goes down again. Kind of sad.
I miss him.
Though we aren't going to be able to see anything other than the rock face, up above us to our left is the Cypress Provincial Park. We're also on the backside of the Lions Gate, the distinctive twin mountain peaks that can be seen on the mountains from Vancouver. And by the way, that's what the Lions Gate movie studio is named after. If we drove to Whistler together, I told you the story about the huge lengths that organizers had to go to provide snow for the freestyle ski events during the Olympics. It was the warmest winter ever recorded in Vancouver, and the mountains above, which normally enjoy a deep snowpack, had bare ground. Well, the organizers saved the event by moving huge amounts of snow in from other places. But I did want to let you know that this is not the first time that a host had to virtually create the courses. In the 1964 Innsbruck Games, there was also a lack of the white stuff. There, the Austrian army was enlisted and carved out 20,000 blocks of ice from the mountainside and took it to the bobsled and luge tracks, as well as transporting 1.4 million cubic feet of snow to the ski slopes. So don't feel bad for Vancouver's struggles. It can happen anywhere. As we get closer to Horseshoe Bay, I should mention to you about which ferries leave from where and go to where. Here at Horseshoe Bay, the main service is to Nanaimo, or sometimes called Departure Bay, which is located on Vancouver Island, but a good hour and a half north of Victoria. This is the ferry to catch if you want to go to Tofino or communities north on the island, but you want to bypass Victoria. There is no ferry that leaves from Horseshoe Bay here and goes to Victoria. To catch the ferry to Victoria, you must go to Tsawwassen, which is at the extreme south end of Greater Vancouver by the USA border. That ferry goes to Swartz Bay, which is 20 minutes from Victoria. The other ferries that leave from Horseshoe Bay here are smaller ones that go to the Sunshine Coast area and one that connects to Bowen Island. If you have a chance to visit Vancouver Island, you really should. And part of the fun is getting there on the ferry. It's a new experience for most people.
Down those houses down there.
Yeah. It's like seeing the element. It's high.
We're skimming along the edge of the community of West Vancouver, which means that we're entering the city again. And we've also finished driving the sea to sky portion of Highway 99. We're now back on to the Trans-Canada Highway number 1. I'm going to keep giving us directions to take us back to downtown Vancouver. We'll feed with traffic from the Nanaimo and other island ferries soon. If a ferry has just arrived, you might notice a big increase in the traffic. The sea to sky is one of the prettiest, most scenic drives in all of Canada, and I hope the weather was kind and we had good viewing for our drive. It's quite amazing to come and do this drive in the different seasons. Just keep following along this way.
The route guidance will start now. Continue on current road for about 41 kilometers.
I'm going to assume that we're not from Vancouver. I hope my guess is right because we all know what sometimes happens when we assume things. Well, Vancouver is one of my favorite cities anywhere. If we're spending a few days in Vancouver, then I'm sure you're going to have a great time. I have some great driving tours in Vancouver that take you to all the best and most popular attractions, as well as a few little gems that most visitors don't get to. Check my menu to see my tours. The Greater Vancouver Regional District is home to about 2.5 million people. This area is also known to the locals as the Lower Mainland and includes everything from the USA border to North Vancouver, Georgia Strait to the west, to Maple Ridge in the east. The city is multiculturally diverse, with the most visible minority being the Chinese. Many of the Chinese in Vancouver came from Hong Kong prior to the transfer of sovereignty from the British back to China. But Chinese migrants have been a part of Vancouver since its very beginning. We discuss the role of the Chinese further in our Vancouver sightseeing tour. Other notable Asian communities in Vancouver include Punjabi, Japanese, Filipinos, Vietnamese, and Koreans. European migration to Vancouver came from Britain, Italy, Greece, Germany, the Ukraine, and Scandinavia. Of course, there is also a sizable Aboriginal population living within the city too. When you look at the faces in the cars around us, you'll get a sense of just how ethnically diverse the population is. And it's easy to see that dining in Vancouver includes an impressive fusion of influences from the different cultures, and that means a lot of delicious dining out. And I say yum to that. Keep following the highway. Vancouver is known for its West Coast laid-back style. But make no mistake, though the people are generally relaxed, friendly, and tolerant, Vancouver is a major economic engine for Canada. Many billions of dollars worth of goods flow through the Port of Vancouver. Vancouver's airport is the second busiest gateway in Western North America for international visitors, just behind LA. Vancouver has a diversified economy, mixing natural resources, especially forestry, banking and finance, tourism and technology. One less common asset to Vancouver is its strong film and television industry. Approximately 10% of Hollywood's movies are filmed in Vancouver, and numerous TV shows are also shot here. The reason is the combination of being on the same time zone as Hollywood, normally a favorable USA-Canadian exchange rate, and Vancouver's scenic beauty and ability to look like other places. Remember lots of creepy areas from the X-Files? They're all around Vancouver. Nowadays, there's a substantial infrastructure of services required for shooting and production. A new growth industry for Vancouver in more recent years has been the video and computer gaming business. During the 2010 Winter Olympics, Vancouver opened and closed the games with ceremonies inside BC Place Stadium, normally the home of Vancouver's football team and a venue for large concerts. That was the first time in a long time that the ceremonies were held indoors. If you know Vancouver's reputation for rain in winter, I'd say it was a pretty wise decision. And it did, in fact, pour with rain during the opening ceremony. Other events that were held around the city were mainly ice events: figure skating, ice hockey, long and short track speed skating, and the perennial Canadian favorite, curling. As I mentioned a few times now, Cypress Mountain was the location for the freestyle ski and snowboard events like moguls and skier and border cross. I've got to say, I'm still in awe of Shaun White from the USA team in the men's halfpipe, who performed at a completely different level to the other competitors. He even caught Oprah's attention and was flown out for an appearance on her show before the games even finished.
Do you want to get up or no? We're just coming into Vancouver now that you might want to see, that's all. Go to sleep if you want. Yeah.
The next exit is Taylor Way, and this is the exit we'll take to go back to downtown Vancouver. Move over to the right lane if we haven't already, and take the exit. If for some reason we're not going back to downtown and we want to stay on the Trans-Canada Highway, then this is where I'll say goodbye. But if you do exit for downtown, I'll be staying with you a little longer. right onto Taylor Way here. Then stay in the left-hand lane until we get over the other side of the hill. I'll have more instructions as we get closer to the turn.
Some Oriental group, but they've translated the name of it, right? You know how sometimes the Asian people write something and then they have to translate it.
Chinglish, it's called.
Chinglish.
Yeah, or Japanglish.
Yeah. It never translates to correct English.
No.
It's funny. Rain starts. I haven't seen many different license plates there.
It'd probably be mostly Vancouver. It'd probably be mostly Vancouver people, no?
Yeah. Well, it is the tourist time, isn't it? For people to be travelling.
It's too early for tourists. I mean, yes, there will be some tourists, but it's not peak time.
Yeah. I'm just trying to rack my brains. I can remember. I don't know whether I can remember going on the ferry with Dad.
I
But
can.
we must have, because
We did.
went
It's one of
Vancouver.
my earliest memories.
We went twice, so I went with him on my own. We went to Vancouver.
I remember taking the ferry to Victoria, and it's almost like a dream. I can't quite remember it, but
Well, I guess I can't remember it. You know, I don't know why.
I must have been 3 or 4 years old, I think.
Yeah. You were only 2.5.
Oh, was I that small?
No, you were only a little baby, huh?
No, I didn't realize I was that small.
Hey?
I didn't realize I was that small.
You only a little tot. still.
No, you can't. It's a freeway, right? So.
Winnipeg is a terrible region. Bending in. Oh, it's terrible.
There it is, eh? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Vancouver on the right, I don't know.
It's one of the biggest provinces, huh?
One of the biggest cities, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I think Vancouver's, I think it's Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. Yeah, it's definitely. Might even be bigger than Montreal, to be honest with you. It's not as big as Toronto, but... Oh, hell, you know what? I don't know. It might be. I'd have to look it up. I'm trying to follow the speed limit, and then I'm backing traffic up.
trees here. Different kinds of trees.
Shopping malls in Burnaby. We'll go there one of these days. Cruise control works great for this.
The smart cruise, you mean?
It's way less aggravating. I don't need to even think about it. You know, I just make sure I don't veer into the lane. It's awesome. Just don't touch anything, you know.
Just knows when you're getting close to a vehicle, so it slows down. didn't you, though, didn't you?
I did. It's a shame there's no roads on Winnipeg to use it.
I know, these are lovely roads. I was just saying that myself. Even though it's a motorway, the roads are and everybody's moving along like there's no congestion. They kind of slide in or they slide out, and no hold-ups. Oops, bump. They don't have to feed in.
Dad wanted me to go to Simon Fraser.
Hey,
Dad wanted me to go to Simon Fraser.
something Simon Fraser?
Yeah, Dad wanted me to go there.
Yeah.
McGill.
He always planned the family trips. It was always an adventure somewhere. Always around late July, August. Focus on the driving, leave your phone alone. But if you keep looking at that, you wouldn't be focusing on your driving, would you?
Your eyes are up here, it's different. Hungry, actually. Look at this car, man. Wow.
Corvette.
No, that's a McLaren.
Oh, what?
That's a McLaren. I saw like a dozen Corvettes coming the other way. I don't think I've ever seen one of those before in real life.
It snows in Vancouver, though, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't have to drive. Well, if you can afford a car like that, you can have more than one car. I think that thing is like a 1.3 million or something. Something silly like that.
Probably Japanese, loads
No.
of money.
Oh,
No?
the other person driving it, I have no idea. But the car is not Japanese.
It doesn't snow a lot here, though, does it?
I think they get a fair bit of snow.
Oh. I thought people moved to Vancouver because the climate was milder.
It is. But we talked about this before. Snow does not correlate to temperature. Usually, often, the coldest places don't get a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Because cold places don't have a lot of cloud cover or mountains and stuff. And those are the things that trap the heat in.
Yeah.
2 kilometers, take exit 44 on the right to Coquitlam City Center. In 1 kilometer, take exit 44 on the right to Coquitlam City Center and then keep left.
To be lost without this thing. So to be lost without this thing. Makes life so much easier. Just get in this lane and then get ready to get in that
on the
lane.
right to Coquitlam City Center and then keep left.
I could drive in this.
Car drives itself.
I know. Mine does though.
This is easier driving than on the freaking mountains. It is.
600
It's not even
meters,
close.
keep left onto Highway 70 East and
This is
then
fucking
keep
easier than
left.
driving on Pembina
Keep
Highway.
left onto Highway 70 East and then keep left.
That should be finished by now though. They put another lane in, didn't they?
In 600 meters, keep left onto Highway 7B. Keep left onto Highway 7B.
Lots of casinos around, but they like their casinos, don't they?
Everyone does.
Yeah, I don't go to
I was
casinos.
never a gambler either.
Continue on current road for about 16 kilometers.
Jeez, Canada is so beautiful, you know. I never realized, you know.
I'm glad you came, Mom.
Really.
I am.
It's just so nice. Like I said, I feel sad sometimes because I can remember things that Dad and I did here. You know. We came twice.
Vancouver.
Well, when we first met, we came here on a trip for 2 weeks. And then when you were gone, we came back.
How far did you go with Heather the time when I stayed?
Yeah. Well, then we came with us.
Where did you go to Banff and then back?
You mean with you?
No, when I stayed, you, Heather, and Dad.
Oh,
I was about 16 or 17.
Yeah, we went around back for them, then up around back again. We didn't go through the... Oh, we did go... No, we didn't go through the States the first time. The first time when Dad and I were together, we went through the States. And coming back, I can't remember. This is what I'm struggling with. I guess.
Well, it's 25 years ago, Mom. 20, 25 years.
Oh, look at the scenery. I can remember things. I remember the names of things. You know, we've had so many holidays, and I forget which hotels we stayed at. But the one that we stayed at was called the Inn of the Sea, and it was way up, you know, out of the city somewhere. And we went there when we were just courting, and then we said, oh, why don't you come back when we get married and have a family, and we did. You and John, and we all went back to the same hotel. Get over there to a bus stop.
I get to walk over. Something to do with big trucks. It tricks the car into thinking that there's a person walking by. I haven't figured it out
Oh,
yet.
it's the big bumpers.
Nothing, so it's warning me that there might be a person around. Congestion.
What's that mean?
Lots of cars.
I know that, but why would you put that up?
Oh, it flashes lights.
Oh, when it's busy, like peak hour and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's a good idea then. But when you can't avoid it, really, you've got to be on here, haven't you?
You might as well know, right? So you can slow down, whatever, right?
It's going down for level.
Just look at the mountains over there.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few nice, impressive mountains. Some of the pictures you've got are absolutely breathtaking. Poutine, our world famous fries with poutine.
Oh, is that it there? Is that our place?
Yeah,
Oh,
Miss Western. Is that the place?
I don't
Is that
think
the place we're
so.
supposed to be?
I don't think so. I can't imagine there's another Best Western 5 kilometers up the street. Well, I guess we'll find out. I hope I didn't put the address in wrong. I mean, it's not a big deal. I'll just turn around, right?
Yeah. Or maybe pull over anyway then.
No, I'll go where it says to go, and then if it's not there, then I'll double check.
What was the name of the street it was on?
It's on this street,
Main Street?
Lockheed Highway.
Oh. That must be it.
Oh, no, it still says it's 4 kilometers up the road, so
Oh.
we'll find out.
She's sleeping again. Jim, she's tired. Miss Abby's sleeping when she's sleeping, that's when she'll rest. Get the medicine down and she'll feel better. Yeah. I guess BC has kind of got some kind of sad memories for me. You know, I never really wanted to come here by myself, I guess. Although Susan said that I fancy a trip here, and I said, oh, yeah, depends. I don't mind going to Vancouver Island or something like that, you know, Victoria or so. Oh, Victoria then. Oh, maybe. We won't drive though, we get a car. I rent a car. She likes driving.
Who are you talking about?
Susan. Yeah. She's a good driver, actually. Considering she's 70. Once the sun goes down now, that's it. Back to the hotel room. it's close. It's not safe driving under the light. That place looks nice. Look, everybody's having wine and having fun. It's not safe.
Oh my god, that's not a lane. What the fuck?
Eh?
Come on in, pal. Yeah, sure.
Just sneaked in, no signs, no nothing. Just I don't go there, I'm going there, going there. No,
No,
I'm
he's
not
not
sure.
even
No,
driving
I'm
in.
not sure. That's where I want to be.
Got no choice now. I'm getting hungry, by the way.
Well, we just go somewhere cheap and no big fancy places. Unless it's seafood, but we'll have another bite later on.
We'll go for seafood in Seattle.
Yeah. John said we'd have fun there, and I thought, well, we'll see. See how things develop, love. I'm easy anyway. Today.
Junior.
They're really good friends. Dairy Queen. It's a posh one. What's this place here? I think it was got bitten when they're out on our waterfall.
Jay got bitten.
That's what I got the Vicks for. You put the Vicks around your ankles and your wrists as if it's like it's perfume or tab of this, that they don't put me in.
Huh.
Red light camera is like tickets wait. Yeah. Moved to Maple Ridge. I can't remember. One of Susan's sisters live here, and a couple of other people, Iris and Jerry. But she's not friends with them anymore. Would you like to live in this world?
Yes, I
Well,
would.
the climate is much nicer, isn't it? I love the trees. It's like England. That's why I liked Victoria, because it was a British flavour.
I think Jay and I are gonna have to sit down and seriously talk about, do we want to stay in Winnipeg?
Yeah.
I don't think I want to.
Well, you're going to have to figure out what you can get. You can get a teaching job.
With Pure Leader, I can go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
The problem is, it's in BC, especially the closer you get to Vancouver, the houses get insanely expensive.
They're not bad here, though.
Oh, you gotta be kidding, Mom.
Maple Ridge?
Maple Ridge, you'd be probably at $1.3 million you'd spend for a house here.
Oh, okay. Well, they're renting, I guess, condos. Well, win the lottery, so
Yeah.
I'll look after you.
We'll go live in Bermuda.
Oh, I don't want to live in Bermuda.
Hawaii?
Don't know. We'll see where I want to live.
Cuba?
Check them car that I haven't checked mine. Did you check yours?
No.
We bought one last week, didn't we? Or the first holiday the first day we came on a holiday, I bought tickets for us. I never checked.
In 700 meters, the
50
destination is on your right.
There you go. Out in the boonies somewhere. Coming up here and after the lights, I guess. It's on the right anyway. Hello.
You have arrived at your destination. Your route guidance is finished.
Where's the main door? Did I drive right past it?
There's a new pole here
What's that?
to plug in.
I don't know, I'll ask.
I thought you checked every hotel we looked at.
This was one that I wasn't sure about.
Oh.